The plasma cannons of the Zephyrian fleet hung like burning stars against the void, their crimson glow painting the hull of the human research vessel Persistence in hellish light. General Vextar of the Third Hegemony watched through the viewport of his flagship as the tiny craft continued its trajectory toward the quarantine zone, seemingly oblivious to the armada that could reduce it to atoms with a single command. "Unknown vessel." Vextar's voice boomed across all frequencies, his translator rendering the words into a dozen galactic languages. "You are approaching restricted space. By order of the Galactic Council, you will surrender immediately and submit to escort." The response came back within seconds, not the terrified plea for mercy Vextar expected, but something that made his four eyes narrow in confusion. Laughter. Pure, unrestrained human laughter. "Thanks for the warning, big guy," came the voice, casual as if discussing weather patterns. "But I think I'll pass." The research vessel didn't even slow down. Vextar's mandibles clicked in agitation. In his 3 centuries of military service, spanning 47 campaigns across the Outer Rim, no one had ever responded to his demands with amusement. Fear, yes. Rage occasionally. Desperate bargaining more often than not. But laughter? "I am General Vexitar of the Zephyrian Third Fleet," he announced, his voice dropping to the tone that had made entire systems tremble. "You face the combined might of 200 warships. Your vessel is primitive metal and ceramic. Comply or be destroyed. Vextar, right?" The human voice remained infuriatingly cheerful. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, xenobiologist. Nice to meet you. Look, I appreciate the whole intimidating fleet thing. Really impressive light show, but I've got work to do." The human ship adjusted course slightly, not away from the quarantine zone, but toward it more directly. Vextar's tactical officer, a young Zephyrian whose scales still gleamed with inexperience, turned from his console. "General, should we open fire?" "Not yet." Vextar studied the human vessel through the tactical display. It was laughably small, barely 50 meters long with no visible weapons, shields that wouldn't stop a child's toy blaster, and engines that any self-respecting pirate would mock. Yet it continued forward with the confidence of a dreadnought. "Dr. Chen," Vextar tried again, modulating his voice to sound reasonable. "The zone ahead contains a class-wide biohazard. No ship has returned from those coordinates in over 200 years. You will die." "Probably," Chen agreed cheerfully, "but that's kind of the point. See, we humans have this funny habit of poking things that might kill us. It's how we learn stuff. You should try it sometime." Vextar felt something he hadn't experienced in decades: bewilderment. The human acknowledged almost certain death and continued anyway. In Zephyrian culture, such behavior was classified as severe mental deficiency. "You speak of learning," Vextar said slowly. "What could possibly justify such recklessness?" "Well, funny you should ask." Chen's ship was now entering the outer edge of the quarantine zone, where space itself seemed to shimmer with an unnatural aurora. See, about 200 years ago, something in that zone started sending out signals. Mathematical sequences, actually. Prime numbers, then Fibonacci, then things that don't match any known mathematical principles. The council decided it was too dangerous and cordoned it off. "Because it is too dangerous," Vextar snapped. "Whatever intelligence resides there has consumed dozens of exploration vessels." "Right, but here's the thing about humans, General. We don't see dangerous unknown intelligence and think quarantine. We see it and think new friend who just hasn't learned to shake hands properly yet." The Persistence crossed the quarantine boundary. Vextar watched his sensors as the ship's signature began to distort, the same electromagnetic interference that had preceded the disappearance of every other vessel. "Dr. Chen, your ship is experiencing system failures." "Yep. Fascinating, isn't it? The interference isn't random. It's probing our systems, trying to understand how they work. It's not hostile, General. It's curious." Vextar's four eyes widened. In 2 centuries of quarantine, thousands of the galaxy's best scientists had studied the zone from a safe distance. None had suggested the entity might be curious rather than malevolent. "You cannot know that," he protested. "Can't I?" "Tell me, General, when your ships approached the zone, did your crews panic?" "Of course. Approaching unknown danger without proper..." But see, that's where humans are weird. My heart rate is actually decreasing right now. Want to know why? Because I've spent my whole life studying first contact scenarios, and this..." Chen's voice filled with genuine wonder. "This is exactly what curiosity looks like when it's big enough to swallow star systems." The persistence vanished from sensors entirely. Vextar stood frozen at his command console, processing what he'd witnessed. The human had walked, no, driven her tiny ship directly into death itself, not despite knowing the danger but because of it. Her final transmission had contained detailed sensor readings, freely shared with his fleet. "General," his communications officer called out nervously. "We're receiving a transmission from inside the zone. On speakers." Dr. Chen's voice emerged, crackling with interference but unmistakably alive and excited. "General Vextar, you need to contact the Council immediately. I'm having the most incredible conversation, and I think your 200-year-old quarantine just became a 200-year-old misunderstanding." Vextar stared at the swirling lights of the quarantine zone, now pulsing in what almost looked like a pattern. For the first time in his military career, he wondered if there were other ways to respond to the unknown besides fear and firepower. Maybe the humans had something to teach the galaxy after all. "Dr. Chen," he said slowly, "please proceed with your conversation. We'll maintain position and await your findings." "Thanks, General. And Vextar? Next time you meet a human walking toward something impossible, you might want to ask if you can tag along. We usually don't mind the company." The laughter that followed wasn't mocking or dismissive. It was the sound of someone who had just proven that sometimes the scariest thing in the universe wasn't the unknown danger ahead. It was the certainty that somewhere, a human was already walking toward it with a smile.